All right, I think we're on YouTube. Looks like it is, at least, and getting ready to go. The Twitch stream should be up. Let me get on the old Twitch stream manager, and it doesn't show. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Now it's showing live. All right, cool. So we're live on that side. We're live on that side. Welcome, welcome, welcome to everybody that is tuning in. We have a couple people, looks like, on YouTube. We got nobody yet on Twitch, but they'll join. So we're getting ready to do our live record here of the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast, our first podcast episode that we've recorded in 3 weeks. So I'll explain it in the podcast open as well, but we had a lot of interesting things happen. The website has been updated, but it's not updated with the latest stuff. So like the stuff that's happened in the last 2 days, I don't have on there. But essentially, we had a couple of things happen. I was gonna do a live record down at Dover, and I didn't bring the laptop, my headset, and all that stuff down to Dover. I didn't feel comfortable bringing all of it, especially considering that all this stuff is antiquated. This is all old stuff. I mean, the laptop I'm using is 10 years old. The headset I'm using is made for a PC slash PS4. None of this stuff is I want to say expensive, but you don't want to lose it. So all this stuff stayed with me, and I didn't do a recording. And then we've had a lot of other things going on outside of outside of the podcast been going on. So we've had a lot of things that we've had to taken care of. Personally, I've had some issues with the NASCAR media website. We had an issue for that whole weekend at Dover. I couldn't get on to anything, whether it was my laptop, whether it was my, and I tried the laptop after I got home. I couldn't get in. I could click on the links, but nothing would open up. So I don't know, is something going on with PDF viewers? I have no idea what the hell was going on. So I was having all kinds of problems with that. And then I've been having a problem the last probably week and a half or so with GoDaddy with their mobile app to update the website. So I've been having issues with that, which means I have to use the laptop to update the website, which limits my ability to update the website as often as I usually have been. I can't just do it as often as I've been trying to. So it's been a little bit harder to do that. So that kind of has taken time away from trying to get the podcast done because now I got to, the time that I would have had to get on the laptop to do all the other stuff to get ready to do these live records. Unfortunately, I can't do because I have to spend that time now updating the website and going with that. So the website is updated as much as it could have been up until I think yesterday or today. I think the last 2 days I haven't really updated it much, but I think it's updated up until that point. I did scrub a lot of the old information off of it. I updated stuff as I could. I do have the Truck Series practice results, which will go up there in a little bit. I got to probably create another page for that. But to describe the GoDaddy issue real quick before we get into the podcast, essentially they've put a contact us button right over the delete button for my ability to add the little news blurbs that I've been doing on the webpage. So it's just a poorly placed button that is causing the issue. So hopefully GoDaddy will get this all figured out. They'll do another update on the iOS devices soon, and hopefully that'll get rectified. But it's very, very annoying that stupid contact us button is legitimately right over the delete button for me to be able to update the website. So that's why we've been able to keep up Facebook. Twitter, I haven't updated as often, but we've been trying to keep Twitter as updated as we can. And then Instagram, I mean, I've told you guys this before with Instagram, especially with the race results and owner points. And as we get more and more drivers into like the Truck Series and Xfinity, it's harder and harder to put the stuff on Instagram because it crops it out and this, that, and the other. And TikTok, we really just do to promote the podcast. That's really all we're using TikTok for anymore. So at least Facebook staying updated and we're able to keep connected with you guys that way. But the website is still kind of a little bit of a work in progress, but I think I've gotten it into a much better place. So with all that said, we're going to jump into the podcast here. I got everything up and running a little bit before I came on here on YouTube and stuff. So we'll be able to kind of just jump right in right at the top because I've learned with this antiquated technology that I own that I can't just pop on and hope that everything magically works. I do have to test some stuff out. I do have to kind of do a little prep work to make sure we're good to go. So we should be fine. Um, the only thing that could hamper things is it's supposed to rain and thunderstorm and stuff here. So the only thing that really could screw us up is the power going out. But I do have enough battery on the laptop. I should be able to get through that if it happens. But I just forewarning you all now that if we get a major thunderstorm and it knocks the power out and the room all of a sudden goes dark and I have to cut the stream, that's what happened. Okay? Because this room will get pitch black in a thunderstorm because I have on the windows. So it will get very dark in here. But other than that, we should be good to go. So hopefully everyone's getting ready to kick off Memorial Day weekend and all that fun stuff. And we'll get ready here to have our first test in about 3 weeks. So I'm going to hit the record button and we'll magically change into our NASCAR topics. Hey, everybody, this is Bobby Bailey here with the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast coming to you with our latest episode. This is season 2, episode 11. I know it's been 3 weeks. Oh, my gosh. I can't even believe it's been 3 weeks since we did the last episode. It feels like it's been a month. So sorry that we haven't been on. We've had legitimately, I think, everything and anything under the sun go wrong the last couple weeks. I was really trying to do an episode Monday after Dover. I was trying to do Darlington and Dover in one shot. I really, really wanted to do that. That was kind of the cadence I was trying to come up with. And we just had all kinds of problems. I had all kinds of problems all weekend with the NASCAR media site. I wasn't able to get in and, get like the race results. I wasn't able to get the owner points, the driver points, any of this stuff. It just wasn't working. And then we did some shows from my hotel room in Dover for each one of the races. So we quasi did a podcast, so to speak, but it was only on Facebook and it didn't get, I didn't record anything or anything. So it didn't go up to Anchor or anything like that. So we were basically off the podcast for the last 3 weeks. So I apologize about that. Like I said, we had some issues. I had some issues with the media site. Wasn't able to click links and do some of the other stuff that we normally do to get updated. So unfortunately, that kind of screwed up part of my plan. And then Monday, the drive back was pretty smooth. I just got back and, after being on the run all weekend and doing this, doing that, even though there wasn't, it wasn't a normal weekend for me at the racetrack, meaning I wasn't in the garage area. I wasn't, talking to people that I know in the garage or interacting with anybody. I was just really just a fan for the weekend, which was kind of different, but it was kind of nice. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. What it was like to just be back at the races and to be at a NASCAR race for the first time in 584 days, as they kept repeating multiple times throughout the weekend, which was the last time the Cup Series was at Dover, which was the last Cup race I was at, was October 2019. So 584 days later, here I was back at a racetrack. And like I said, back at a track that I was used to going to twice a year, a place that I pretty much know inside and out. And there were things that were dramatically different. There were things that were promising that I'll talk about as well. Things that I saw that I think is good things to see for the future of our sport, and hopefully some things that we're going to see later in the season. So hopefully we'll see more of people being allowed in the garage area. I know people are going to be allowed in the garage this weekend at Charlotte. They're also going to do it at Sonoma as well. I still haven't heard a lot about Watkins Glen, which is the next race that I believe is going to be on my schedule. to attend. But if that means I have to go to that race as a fan only, I'll do that. Listen, after not being able to go to races for the last year and a half, really, just going as a fan and not actually going in the garage is not the end of the world. It's something that I enjoyed tremendously down at Dover, and look forward to possibly doing that again at Watkins Glen in August. So looking forward to that as well. So um, yeah, so we'll go with that. So the other thing we'll talk about is we'll go back and we'll talk about Darlington. So we'll talk about the races at Darlington Raceway, and then we will talk about the weekend that was at COTA. We'll talk about the rain. We'll talk about the debacle with the cup cars on track for the first time ever in a rain race. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the throwback weekend at Darlington. Is it overrated now or overused? Have we played that card too much, if you will? And then we'll also discuss the latest in silly season. I mean, it's hard to believe that silly season has already started. The rumor mill is out there pretty much. As of right now, we got Brad Keselowski offered a reported partial ownership of Roush Fenway Racing. And it looks like with what Roger Penske said this morning when asked by Jeff Gluck, who's going to drive the 2-car, his answer was, we have a contract with Brad Keselowski that runs through the end of this season, and we'll make a decision after that ends. So basically, he's telling you that Brad's contract's ending this year, and Brad is not coming back, and we will have a new driver in the number 2 car. Who that is remains to be seen. So we'll get into all that right after this quick commercial break. This is the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast, hosted by Bobby Bailey. All right. So that is the first opening segment. For those of you who've never been on here before, I got one person here that asked me, I don't understand. You're talking about races. Yes, this is a NASCAR podcast. So if you don't know what NASCAR is, I'll explain it, as we're doing it. But really, if you don't know anything about NASCAR, you got to check out the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. I have a 3-part mini series called NASCAR for Rookies. And if you go back, you can listen to all 3 episodes, and I'll explain to you what NASCAR is all about. It'll give you the history. It'll give you a little bit about what the cars are, what it means to go to the racetrack, all those things. If you check it out, that's the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. And you can check out, like I said, NASCAR for Rookies, a 3-part mini series. I do have some more episodes for that series coming up, hopefully at some point in time. If I have any more free time on my hands, I will try to get another couple episodes up and running because I know people have asked me about it. So we'll try to get more up as well. So that is that. So right now I got to move a couple things around here. Give me 1 second. I don't like having a lot of dead air, but this is giving me a little bit of a problem. 1 second here. Hopefully that goes. Yeah, now we're in the right spot. All right, cool. Very good. Very good. We got everything put together where it's supposed to be. It's always a plus. It's always a plus. All right, everybody. This is Bobby Bailey back here with the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. And like I said, man, we got a lot to talk about. We got 3 races we got to get into. So what we're going to do is I'm going to call this segment the race recap. So we're going to do Darlington, Dover, and COTA. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Darlington. We'll kind of go through the races and we'll talk a little bit about throwback weekend. Primarily, throwback weekend has been the Southern 500 for the last, I think, 4 or 5 years. And this year, the track elected to move it to the race that happened about 3 weeks ago and Mother's Day weekend. They elected to move it to that race weekend. Now, I know there was a lot of people that were upset about it because, we were used to the tradition of it being on Labor Day weekend, the Southern 500. It made sense because for those of you that don't know, the Southern 500 was traditionally run on Labor Day for years and years and years, up until about 2003. '03 was the last year they ran it on Labor Day weekend. And then the following year, they moved the races out to California. So they went out to Auto Club Speedway, which is the name of the track now. It used to be called Fontana. Um, so they go out there and they run the races out in California, and the attendance declines pretty bad. So NASCAR decided they're going to move the races to Atlanta Motor Speedway down in Georgia. They run it in Atlanta for a couple seasons, and the light bulb kind of goes off in some executive's head that maybe we need to pull the date out of Atlanta, out of trying to do the Fontana deal, and maybe it needs to go back to Darlington because Darlington brought back the Southern 500 name, and there was a lot of people that were making a push for it internally within the sport to get Darlington their Southern 500 Labor Day weekend date back. So that's how that kind of all came to be. And what NASCAR decided to do was let's do a throwback weekend. We have, Throwback Thursday was a thing at the time, and people were, saying, hey, there's a lot of really cool things that we've run in the past, some really cool paint schemes. Some of the sponsors that were in the sport way back when are still involved in the sport, or maybe it's a way to get some sponsors that used to be involved back involved. And it was supposed to be a really big event. And the first one was amazing. I mean, the first one, we had all kinds of really cool paint schemes. And then the subsequent years since then, the schemes have been unique. There's been some kind of cool ones. There's been some ones that we've seen multiple times. For example, Chase Elliott ran the Alan Kowicki Hooters paint scheme. Now, if you don't know what that paint scheme is, you can Google it. Just look up Alan Kowicki and Hooters, and you will find it. Or just type in Alan K and Hooters. I'm sure you can find it as well. So Chase Elliott goes out and runs this paint scheme. It's one that Greg Biffle ran, I think, about 2 years before him, or maybe 3 years, because Biffle's been out of NASCAR for a few years now. But Biffle and Roush already put this particular scheme out there one year. So Chase was running it again. But I think the coolest paint scheme of this particular throwback weekend had to have been another Alan Kowicki paint scheme, and one from the late 80s, early 90s, which was his Xerox scheme. Xerox is a coolant that you use in your car, and it's a Valvoline brand now. But Xerox used to sponsor Alan Kowicki. And Alan Kowicki was, up until Tony Stewart, the last owner driver to win the Cup Series championship. Now, owner drivers used to be very popular way back when NASCAR first started. A lot of those guys used to drive cars that they owned. But sometimes guys would go in and race cars that were owned by a family friend, or maybe somebody, a big business guy or something like that. So it wasn't necessarily the whole field, but it was more than just one or two guys. There was several drivers that were doing it. And as the sport has become more and more expensive, there's less and less of those guys that are owner drivers. And today, there's really, the only one that exists today is Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin drives for Joe Gibbs Racing, obviously, and then he owns part of 2311 Racing. And that car is driven by Bubba Wallace. Obviously, the other team owner over there at 2311 is Michael Jordan. So, getting back to this whole thing with the throwback weekend, I think by moving it, you've kind of diluted it a little bit, but I understand it from a couple of perspectives. The first perspective is, now that Darlington has 2 dates again, okay, they have 2 Cup races, they have the 2 Xfinity races, and now they're going to have a second Camping World Truck Series race, which we'll talk about later with the news. They now had to do something to bring people to the racetrack in May. Everybody loves the Southern 500. Now it's part of the NASCAR playoffs. But what do we do to get people to buy the ticket to come in May? And that's why the Southern 500 race weekend is no longer the throwback weekend. They moved it to the spring race, which is now called the Goodyear 400. And they did the throwback weekend on Mother's Day. Now, I didn't think it was all that bad. I like that Fox got involved with it a little bit along the lines of what NBC used to do when they had it for the Southern 500 race weekend. But the only thing I didn't like was they didn't try to do like what NBC would do is maybe had a connection to the past or old announcer. Love to have had for a stage to hear Darrell Waltrip and Larry McReynolds with Mike Joy, for example. I would have loved to have had that as a throwback for a little trip down memory lane for old time's sake to listen to those guys in the booth for one stage. Wouldn't have been the worst thing that Fox has ever done. Actually, probably would have gotten a little bit of attention if they did it. But I understand that they're very much big on Boyer and Gordon right now, and those are their guys. But I think people would have appreciated the trip down memory lane. So that is what it is. But you had three interesting winners that weekend at Darlington. You had Sheldon Creed, who picked up his first win of the season. Sheldon Creed, the 2020 Truck Series champ, goes out, picks up his first win of the season at a tough racetrack, Darlington. So that was a big shot in the arm for that race team. They had struggled tremendously up until Darlington, and they really needed that jolt of energy going into that weekend. So that was a big win for him. Then Justin Allgaier goes up and picks up his second win of the season. And for Allgaier, this was big in the sense that, he was always known as a short track guy the last couple of years. He had one at Richmond, a 3/4 mile track. He won at Dover, a mile track. He won at Phoenix, a mile track. He hadn't won a mile and a half race in a very long time. But what does he do earlier this year? He goes down in Atlanta and wins that mile and a half race down in Atlanta, Georgia. And now what does he do? He goes and wins at Darlington, which is a 1.33 mile racetrack. So Justin Allgaier has now gotten 2 wins at 2 abrasive racetracks and 2 tough to win at kind of tracks. These are tracks that you got to get up on the wheel and you got to run with everything you got. And that is what Justin Allgaier did at both of these tracks and was able to get another win. And then obviously we remember what happened on Sunday. Martin Truex Jr. dominated at Darlington, picks up his second win at Darlington in the last several years, gets a win in the Matt Black scheme, kind of the throwback to Furniture Row Racing in his championship days over there. And, just a dominating win. His first dominating win with James Smalls as his crew chief. And boy, let me tell you, Truex, he became a championship favorite that afternoon by winning at Darlington. And I'll tell you why. Truex won at Phoenix, which a lot of people are gonna make attention to or pay attention to because of, that's the track that we have our championship race at. All right. But the other thing is that, he's won now at some really tough tracks. Phoenix is not the toughest track on the schedule, but he won with James Small at Martinsville. That's a race that comes up in the playoffs. He gets the win at Phoenix, and now he's got a win at the 1.33 mile track of Darlington, which starts the playoffs. So Truex is now somebody that a lot of people have it, probably are going to put him in their final 4 when we get down to that time of the season. And they're going to put Truex in the top 4 and say that this is a guy that you're going to have to race up against in order to win the NASCAR Cup Series championship and capture the Bill France trophy. I think that that's what you're going to have to, look at is how good is Truex going to be. I think he's going to be a guy that you're going to have to contend with. So a very much interesting weekend at Darlington. Do I think that the throwback thing has run its course? I do. I think this is now 5 or 6 years we've done it. I think it's time to retire it. Maybe Darlington needs to come up with something else, but I think that thing has kind of run its course. We need to kind of come up with a new idea, maybe something a little bit different. But I just think that the throwback thing has run its course in the sense that, we're regurgitating schemes that we've used in previous seasons. Um, Guys are throwing back to their own cars when they were driving go-karts or their crew chiefs go-karts. I think we've gotten a little carried away with the throwback theme. And there's some stuff that we've missed out on as far as paint schemes, but I think we gotta liven it up a little bit, maybe do something different. I don't know, but um, that's my take on that. So moving on to Dover, obviously an exciting weekend for me. First time back at the racetrack in person in 584 days. Oh my gosh, let me tell you, it was great just to be back at the racetrack, and I'll tell you why. You don't realize how much you miss going to the races until you haven't been at the racetrack in a year and a half. And Friday driving into the Monster Mile and pulling into the parking lot, getting out. I'd never been more excited to be at a racetrack. I'll tell you, I really haven't been that excited in a long time. It was great, even though yes, I couldn't get into the garage, I couldn't meet drivers, I couldn't talk to the couple guys that I know that work in the garage area, couldn't hang out with those guys. I was still excited just to go and sit in the grandstands. And I didn't think I would ever get excited about that ever again in my life because, I've always kind of said it on the podcast that once you garage area, that's all you want to do. You want to be in the garage area. You want to be with the drivers. You want to, get a photo with them. You want to get an autograph. You want to get that selfie with them. But it is so cool just to be back at the racetrack now. Um, so much has changed in the 584 days since I was last at a racetrack, in particular Dover. They took out more seats, so the grandstands, there's a little bit less of them at the racetrack. But in so many ways, there's so many things that I saw that were so encouraging. The first thing that I thought was the most encouraging out of everything was we had the haulers back at the track. People, the fans were excited to be there. There was a lot of people that were like me that were just thrilled to be back at the racetrack. Yeah, there were people that were complaining that we didn't have the opportunity to walk on the racetrack before the start of the Cup race on Sunday like you normally would have. There wasn't an opportunity to go in and get your picture taken, with Miles, monster trophy or anything like that. But you were still able to get to the racetrack. You were still able to buy your favorite driver's gear, at the haulers, and really was something to behold, just for that weekend. So you really do get to enjoy it and you get to smell everything. I think what really got the blood flowing for me was getting to see the haulers up close and personal again. And just, kind of remembering, man, what it was like to be there 3 years ago, or a year and a half ago, to be like right next to those, haulers and stuff. And I know it's such a trivial thing to some of us that have covered this sport for as long as I have, or been in the garage area as long as I've been lucky enough to be in. You don't realize what you have until it's gone. And like I said, coming back to it was just awesome. It was amazing. It was everything that I thought it was going to be, and then some. It was kind of cool. I got to hang out with some friends on Sunday that I hadn't seen in a little bit. In particular, a couple of friends I haven't seen really since I was at Dover in 2019. Because we normally would see each other 4 or 5 times a year. There wasn't no, motorsports show in January that we usually go to and meet drivers and stuff at. There wasn't that, so Friday and Saturday I was literally just by myself. Friday, I sat in the grandstands. There was nobody around me at all, which was kind of nice. I said this during the Facebook lives that I did. Everybody had to wear a mask to get into the racetrack, like into the grandstands. But once you were there, pretty much everybody to a person took their mask off. And I, I'm not getting into a political thing here. I'm not trying to tell you should or shouldn't get the vaccine. That's your personal preference. I personally don't care. Whatever. I had been vaccinated, so I wasn't worried about the situation. I'll be honest with you. But I think what it really kind of made me feel more at ease and more normal. Um, it was kind of like that sign that, we are getting back to the things that we love to do, and going to races, man. I'm telling you, this was something that I had missed so much, and it was hard this last year and a half. I'll tell you, it's been hard. And just to have a weekend, just to go down and watch races, listen to the drivers on the talk on the radio, and all that. It was just that was cool. But to be there and know that there were fans there. Um, Saturday I sat literally a seat away from a person. Because the Saturday, I'll say this about Saturday. Dover did not have their stuff together with the Saturday crowd at all. I don't know what the hell they were doing. I don't know what they were thinking. I have no idea. I had a reserved ticket for for Saturday. And I was supposed to sit in the Petty Grandstand in row 33, seat 1. I walk up to that exact seat. There's 5 people sitting in those seats. And I'm like, where's the social distancing? Now, I didn't say anything to anybody. I wasn't upset. I found that there was a whole empty row, like 2 rows away from where I was supposed to sit. So I sat down in a empty seat, which is what I'm assuming those other people were doing. So I sit down in my seat, and then all of a sudden, this group of, no joke, 10 people come up, and they're like, we have this whole row. And I was like, whatever. I'm 3 seats away. So they're spread out because there was people actually in their seats as well. So this is how bad Dover did on Saturday. They had no ushers. I mean, I was just blown away with how little staff they had at the racetrack. And I'll tell you, a year and a half ago, when I was there last in October of 2019, they had so many people. I mean, it was unreal how many staff they had. And the fact that on Saturday they had no ushers. I didn't see a single usher in the whole place. I saw more security guards than I saw ushers at Dover, which was really interesting. Really, really interesting. So there was no policing of where you were sitting. There was nobody checking to see if you were actually in the seat that you were supposed to be in. There was none of that. None of that. So I sat in a seat, and then like I said, this group of 10, I don't even know if it was one family. It might have been people that were just friends of friends that got together and went to the racetrack, whatever. They sat literally a seat away from me. So I had no problem with it. Like I said, I've been vaccinated. I'm not really, paranoid about it, but it was just one of those things. You had someone sitting a seat away from you. You're like, okay, whatever, it is what it is. But like I said, it was from a seating standpoint, it was a disaster. They did not have their stuff together on Saturday with that. I didn't really get food any point of the weekend, so the concession stand deal. Friday, I went and got a water. But other than that, I really didn't go to the concession stands during the race weekend. Saturday, I went. I think I went. I think I walked to McDonald's on Saturday. There's a McDonald's. If you've ever been to Dover, there's a McDonald's kind of right next to there's a Home Depot on US 13 that you could drive down to from if you're on Leipzig Road, which is the main stretch that runs a main road that runs right parallel to Dover Speedway. And you can get to the Home Depot off of Leipzig, or you can get to the Home Depot off of US 13. So I walked from where my car was parked. I walked down to the Home Depot. There's this little dirt road, and I walked into the Home Depot parking lot. And if you pick the right bush clearing, you actually end up in the McDonald's parking lot. So I walked in there, and I got a Big Mac meal and all that. I spent $8.64 on a large Big Mac meal. Go back and eat it and all that fun stuff. But I'm walking around looking at the concession stand prices. There was no joke. There was a burger place at Dover that was charging $15 just for a cheeseburger. $15. Unreal. I mean, a lot of the places it was $7-8 for a cheeseburger. By the time you got the fries, it was another $5 or $6. And then by the time you got a drink, you were looking at, even if you say 8, 5 is 13, another $4 or $5 for a soda. I mean, you're close to $20 just for a meal. And I went to McDonald's, and I know McDonald's isn't the healthiest thing to eat in the world, but I walked out of McDonald's for less than $9. I spent almost 20 at the racetrack. So that's a little thing that I always try to figure out when I go to Dover. But you don't have that luxury at some tracks. Like for example, if you go to Pocono is out in the middle of the woods. It's out in the boonies. Your best bet at Pocono is to stop. There's a couple of stop, exits off of Route 80 where they have supermarkets. So you can go to Weiss, you can go. There's a couple of different places that you can go get a sandwich, for $5-10 and then bring it into the racetrack because you're allowed to bring food in, but you got to know what you're doing at these places too. So Dover's the one that I can hit a fast food joint up like a McDonald's. I could go to Hardee's. I could go, Sunday I went to Wawa. There's a Wawa. If you don't know what Wawa, live in the Northeast, I guess. I'll just say that much. But so I went to Wawa. It's a convenience store, gas station type combo deal. And I went in there and I got a sub sandwich to go down into the racetrack with. So Sunday I had my stuff together a little bit better. I brought my cooler. I had a couple sodas with me, and I bought a bag of popcorn and some Sour Patch Kids. I got a little thing for Sour Patch Kids and went in and watched the race on Sunday. Now Sunday my seats were in turn 4. So Friday and Saturday I sat on the front stretch right by the start, exact same seat, both deals. So Sunday, I had turn 4 seats, which was exactly what I wanted. I got to tell you though, I am so I have gotten so lucky so many times in my life. This was probably the luckiest time I've ever gotten. So I got to go back about 2 weeks or 3 weeks prior to the race, right when Dover shut the tickets off to purchase tickets for the race. I was looking to buy tickets still. I didn't get tickets yet because I wasn't sure. My girlfriend was going up to Massachusetts for her sister's college graduation, so I knew she couldn't go. So I was looking for one ticket, and I was dragging my feet, and I was looking for a ticket. I got on Ticketmaster, and I bought tickets for Friday and Saturday, but there was no Cup tickets. And then I saw that they announced it like a day before that they were closing the Cup's ticket process down so that they can reseat people for the COVID protocols because the state of Delaware is only allowing them to have 35% capacity. Now, I didn't know what Dover's capacity was anymore because I'll be honest with you, in 2001, it was 100,000 people. So 35% would have been 35,000. Obviously, it's not 100,000 anymore. They're down to about 60-ish thousand seats. So they were allowed to have 20,000 fans. They had this big mess on Ticketmaster with the reseating process. There are so many people that are pissed off at Dover. It's amazing. I mean, if you want to, just look up anything with Dover and the reseating process, and you'll see it's a hot mess. Okay? So to make a long story short, they had this ticket pre-sale deal that if you had a ticket and you had to get reseated, they gave you your money back, and then you had to use that money to repurchase a seat in a new area. So I go in there and I actually went on Ticketmaster, went on the app, and I found out that they had this pre-sale. So I'm like, I wonder how great this password is to get into it. So I type in, I just guessed the first thing I thought was Dover. It unlocked it. And I was like, Dover was the password for this? Who the hell came up with this idea? So I got in and I selected, I wanted one ticket, and it showed up my options. And I was looking for a seat in turn 4, and this particular seat popped up. So I was in 125, which was a section I used to sit in quite a bit. So I knew exactly where it was. But it was like row 25. And I'm like, oh, I'm all the way up at the front. Man, I got to walk up 5 flights of steps. I said, oh, it won't be that bad. I can walk up. There's 19 or 20 rows of seats in front of me. So I get to the racetrack and, walking in, I realized on Friday that they took out those bottom 18 rows of seats. So there was no other option than to walk up the 3 flights of stairs to get to the top, which I apologize for Siri kicking in there, which they cut the top of the grandstands off. So now there's even less seats above you. So it was funny. I had to walk up 3 flights of steps. I got through security, got through everything, was still wearing my face mask because I didn't rip that off right after I walked in. And I was getting up the stairs. I was like, you know what, this face mask is gonna hurt me more than it's gonna help me. Climbing 3 flights of steps because I'm not the world's skinniest guy on the planet. So I ripped the face mask off and I went up the stairs. But boy, let me tell you, I mean, I was worn out, and I was like, Jesus, that was a workout on Sunday. Getting up those 3 flights of steps, trying to get back down to sit there. But man, what a crazy, crazy, crazy experience there. Um, and then sat down. I've sat in that upper section previously. So I knew the seats were amazing. I knew they were going to be really good. I was happy that I was able to get in there and do all that stuff and watch the race. And Friday's race was pretty exciting. Um, everybody thought Ty Gibbs was just going to run away with it. And he really didn't. He came on strong late in the race, but he picked up the win. And then Saturday's race, Allgaier was going to win that one, but he didn't. And I was like, man, I was really hoping he was going to win. And then Josh Berry looked like he had the car, and then they had the caution late. And then we got Austin Cindric. So it was what it was. But Sunday's race, um, it was funny. I mean, Kyle Busch had problems right out the gate. 7 laps in, he had a cylinder going down. It sounded like. Then all of a sudden, wasn't the cylinder. It was an engine plug wire, and oh my gosh, that was a big thing. So he lost a couple of laps, and he could never get him back until the very very end of the race, and kind of took him out of contention, which was great. So it was nice. It was a nice race, and it was cool to see Alex Bowman pick up the win. Larson had the car, though. Kyle Larson dominated that race, should have won it. But once again, his car faded late in the race, and kind of like what happened to him at Atlanta. He had the dominant car, and it just faded on him. And Bowman got the win. The first win for the 48 at Dover, the 48 car at Dover, that wasn't Jimmy Johnson driving the car. So that was a big one right there for Bowman, his second win on the season. And now the first driver other than Martin Truex Jr. have multiple wins on the season. So a big deal for Bowman there. So I notice I'm kind of short on time for this particular segment. So what we're going to do is, on the other side of this break, we will talk about COTA, because there's a lot to talk about with COTA. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about COTA, it's Circuit of the Americas. So we'll talk about COTA. We'll talk about the rain. We'll talk about the fallout from NASCAR running its first ever Cup Series race on the rain tire, what the fans thought of it. I've said this before. You can't please all of the NASCAR fans, but you sure as hell pissed a lot of them off, I think, by what they did or didn't do during this race. So we'll talk about that, a lot more, here on the other side of this break. This is the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast, hosted by Bobby Bailey. All right, so while that uploads, one of the things I like to do is, for those of you that are on Twitch or on YouTube, I like to show you some diecasts that I have here behind me. I usually show you guys the newest additions to the collection. I'm trying to see if I got some that are accessible here. So I have one for sure that's actually two that are readily accessible, because I haven't talked about any of these cars in a while. So this first one I'm going to show you is a Brad Keselowski. Number 2 car. This is the Alliance Truck Parts Mustang that Brad won with at New Hampshire. So this is his New Hampshire paint scheme from 2020 with the Western Star logo on the front of the car. So kind of cool there. If you hear my phone buzzing in the background, just kindly ignore that. Apparently, people don't know that I'm doing my Facebook Live. My podcast. So they'll have to wait. This next one I'm going to show you guys is kind of cool. Cole Custer. So Cole Custer's first ever Cup win. This is a dual autograph elite. This is autograph on the front. I do have to say Cole has probably one of the more simplistic autographs in all of NASCAR. It's just a C with a C with the little squiggle. And then the dual autograph is Mike Shiplett on the back, which is Cole's crew chief. Cole won at Kentucky, driving for for Stewart Haas Racing, and Haas Tooling was his primary sponsor this day. And pretty cool. And now I have all of Cole's first wins. So I have his Truck Series first win, his I have his Xfinity first win, and now I have his Cup Series first win. Trying to see if there's anything else on here that I've gotten since we were last together. This is one I know we haven't talked about. This is Chase Briscoe's liquid color Darlington win from 2020. So I know I got one person on Twitch that's not into car racing, but or hasn't been into it that much. But if you have the chance to go on YouTube and search Xfinity Darlington 2020, this Chase Briscoe car is the car that won that race. It's a pretty epic battle between Chase Briscoe and Kyle Busch. And this car's got some nice little tire marks on it. This particular car was an exclusive, I believe, to my good friends over at Circle B Diecast. So circlebdiecast.com. This was a run of 72 that were made. This is number 50, and it's autographed by Chase. So I got to thank my good buddy Brent Powell and the folks over at Circle B Diecast for the hookup on this diecast. It's a pretty sweet ride. So it gets a pretty good spot over there. Trying to see if there's anything else in this grouping here that is new. I think everything else I've shown off before at some point in time. So not much else new on that front. So let's see how we're doing on the upload there. So this is going to be all right. There is one I forgot about, but we'll show it. We'll show it the next break. All right, everybody. This is Bobby here on the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast, coming back to you with our COTA Circuit of the Americas race recap. And I gotta tell you guys, man, COTA was wild for possibly all the wrong reasons, but it depends on how your take on it is. So the Truck Series and the Xfinity both ran on Saturday. The trucks started in the rain, and a big second career win for Todd Gilliland. For those of you that don't know, Todd is the son of the legendary David Gilliland, and I call him legendary because David Gilliland won a Busch race in a very underfunded car at Kentucky and shocked the world winning that race. And he went on to have a okay Cup career. I won't call it amazing, but it was an okay Cup career. And his son, Todd, is now driving for Front Row Motorsports in the Truck Series. And Front Row Motorsports, if you look at their Cup operation, is not the largest Cup operation out there. They don't have a lot of money compared to, let's say, a Gibbs or a Hendrick or a Penske or some of the big-time teams. They have way less money compared to those operations. But in the Truck Series, they're pretty competitive because the truck that Todd drives is built by his father's race team. So it's a DGR built truck that Front Row Motorsports fields. It's their pit crew. Um, it's Front Row's pit crew, and team personnel and stuff like that. But the trucks are built by David Gilliland Racing, so they're not a Front Row Motorsports built truck, but they are fielded by them. So it's kind of a interesting relationship how that all kind of plays out. But nonetheless, Todd Gilliland picks up his second career win, his first with Front Row Motorsports, and it locks him in the playoffs. So the kid's in the playoffs, and he'll be ready to go in a few weeks. And there's only 6 races left for the start of the Truck Series playoffs after this weekend at Charlotte. So it's going to be wild to get into the playoffs now because you have a lot less opportunities out there and not a lot of time to get it done. So it'll be kind of crazy going forward. But the truck race was interesting. We had some guys up there that you don't normally see up there. Guys struggle that normally run well. So it was a kind of a good mix-up race. But at the end, Todd Gilliland picks up the victory and will now be locked into the playoffs, like I said. So big win for him. Then we get to Saturday afternoon in the Xfinity race. And it's the Kyle Busch show. Kyle Busch just stinks up the place, runs away with it. I think he led 35 or 36 of the 54 laps in the race and dominates and picks up his 98th career NASCAR Xfinity Series win. So he gets I think now 2 away from his goal of 100 wins in the series, and then he's going to retire from running in the Xfinity Series, which if you're a sports fan and you know how baseball works, you have, single A, double A, triple A. The Xfinity Series is like triple A, and the Truck Series is like double A. And then ARCA is single A. That's kind of like how the ladder system works in NASCAR. So it's kind of weird that Kyle Busch has won 98 races now in that AAA series equivalent, I would say, and a big win for him. It gave him some extra seat time. There were other guys that from the Cup Series that came down and ran in this race. Cole Custer, who I referenced to on our little off-air break in between on the live streams. So if you don't watch the live streams now, you should. So you should always pay attention to the Facebook page. Find out when I'm going to live record. And then during the breaks, what I do is I talk about these diecasts that are behind me on the live streams. So I'll talk about the latest edition. I just talked about this beautiful Kentucky race win diecast that I got in recently. And we talked about Cole Custer. So Cole Custer was in the Xfinity race on Saturday, driving for Rick Ware Racing in that 17 car. And then Kevin Harvick was driving for BJ McLeod's team, driving the 5 with Rush Truck Centers as his primary sponsor. And trying to think who else. Austin Dillon was in the race. Tyler Reddick was in the race. Obviously, Kyle Busch. But a few of the Cup guys were in Saturday's Xfinity race trying to get some extra seat time, trying to get ready for Sunday's big race. And then Ross Chastain, this is whose pit crew shirt I'm wearing today. Ross Chastain filled in for Joe Graff Jr. driving the 07 car for SS Greenlight Racing. He also got in on the action on Saturday as well. So Kyle Busch, 98th career win, which led us to Sunday's craziness. So NASCAR declared Sunday's race start damp, which means one of two things. It is up to the teams whether or not they want to race on the wet tire because qualifying was declared wet. So they had to run the wet tire. But because NASCAR declared the race start damp, they could run slicks if they wanted to. So some of the teams came down pit road before the race started and put on slick tires. Because as we learned at the Roval last year, which is the Charlotte Motor Speedway's oval road course combination track that is inside of Charlotte Motor Speedway, we found out that if the track is lightly damp, you can run the slicks and actually run faster lap times than you would on the rain tires that NASCAR has provided the teams as made by and manufactured by Goodyear. So some of the teams in the beginning of the race ran slicks. Some of the teams kept their wet tires on. whatever your case was, about 5 or 6 laps into the race, everybody was on rain tires because it was pouring rain. And we had a couple of big accidents. We had an accident where um, Martin Truex Jr. ran into the back of, I think, Michael McDowell or somebody, um, and he got run into by Cole Custer. And Cole picked Martin Truex's car up and, got it up airborne, and then Custer ran into the wall. So that caused a lot of damage to both cars. Luckily, both drivers were okay. Everybody was fine. The wreck before that was Kevin Harvick was in a wreck, very similar type deal where he rear-ended somebody, he got run over and sent into the wall. Um, Both Truex and Harvick were very vocal after the race, saying that the conditions were unsafe. The guys couldn't see. The rooster tails were terrible, and social media went off. I mean, Twitter, people were complaining all over the place about how terrible the conditions were. NASCAR needs to red flag the race. NASCAR needs to do this. NASCAR needs to do that. So what does NASCAR do? They red flag the race, okay? They get the air tightens out. They dry the backstretch, right? So that the rain isn't as bad and all this other stuff. And what happens? They send everybody back out. Everybody starts racing again. And then guess what happens? We get another rainstorm. And this time NASCAR's like, you know what? We've seen this act before. Time out. Put the cars on pit road. And they wait. And they wait. And then they decide, well, it's 6:30 at night. We're not going to get this track dry enough to go back out there. We're fighting daylight as it is. We're going to call the race. Guess who's leading the race at this point in time? Chase Elliott. So Chase Elliott is the 2020 NASCAR Cup Series champion. Doesn't have a win yet this year. Is the sport's most popular driver by a mile. And guess what? He was 2 laps short on fuel. There's 14 laps to go in this race. Chase is 2 laps short on fuel, and NASCAR throws a red flag, calls the race. Chase Elliott's your winner. Boy, did social media light up after that. The fans went ballistic. NASCAR wanted to hand Chase Elliott a win. NASCAR wanted to get Elliott, their golden boy, a win, this, that, and the other. Folks, let me tell you, nobody likes a rain-shortened race. Not any more than the guy that wins the damn rain-shortened race. NASCAR did not give Chase Elliott the win. This was a deal where NASCAR botched this thing almost as bad as Goodyear botched the 2009 Indianapolis race, the Brickyard 400. Almost as bad as that butcher job that Goodyear did at Indianapolis Motor Speedway that year. And if you want to go see what I'm talking about, go on YouTube and look up 2009 Brickyard 400. You'll find the disaster there. NASCAR needs to do something with the rain tires. I know that these rain tires are not full wet tires. These are what you would consider intermediate, because NASCAR never has been put in a situation, A, where they had to race in the rain, and B, run in a monsoon like they had to run. I know that they had these tires developed before they went to Suzuka, to Japan, to run on the road course out there, which is ironically a Formula One track as well. So when they went out and ran Suzuka, they had rain tires because they were going to run that race rain or shine. They weren't going to go back out or run the next day. They were going to run that race rain or shine. And that's where the rain tires were developed for. So these rain tires are from the 90s, the technology of these things. NASCAR hadn't really had to run them that much until the last, 5 or 6 years. They've had to run them quite a bit. They had to run them for the Xfinity Series last year at Charlotte. And an infamous downpour for the Xfinity Series race caused all kinds of problems. Guys were wrecking all over the place. I mean, you want to talk about a shit show. That was a shit show that day. And there were so many people complaining about that race too, if you go back and look at it. So NASCAR's got to do something with these rain tires. They got to come with a full wet. They got to make Goodyear do it. Now, I understand we're getting the next gen car in 2022, and I understand that there's going to be a rear diffuser, and probably it will help a little bit with the rooster tails. I don't think it's going to solve the rooster tail problem. But what NASCAR's got to do is they have to hit the red flag and get the car stopped when the rain is so bad that the guys can't see 3 feet in front of them. Because I don't care what kind of lights you put on the car. I don't care what you do with the rear diffuser. I don't even care if they develop the damn full wet tire. If these guys can't see 3 feet in front of them, why the hell are we racing? What is the point? The point of racing isn't to wreck the race cars and to destroy everything. The point of racing is to figure out who's got the best car, who runs the fastest, who's got the best equipment out there. That's the point of racing. The point of racing isn't to see, ooh, which driver's the bigger daredevil, who's got the bigger this and the bigger that, and what all this other stuff that people are saying. It is about the competition. And when the competition is hampered so badly by the weather conditions that we saw on Sunday, that's when NASCAR should have said, oh shit, we should red flag the race, stop what we're doing, and then we should go out and actually run this race once it's a little bit tamer, once the rain is calmed down a bit, and let's go out and run on a damp track versus going out and running in the monsoon. I just think NASCAR, and then they put themselves in a box because they let them run in the monsoon at the very beginning. If they stopped the race and got the track dry the first go around, then the second time when they called the race, it wouldn't have gotten the backlash that it would have if they figured it out right the first time. So once again, NASCAR inconsistent, undecisive, and once again doesn't get it right. And guess what happens? It pisses off NASCAR Nation. And it rightfully does, because once again, NASCAR screws something up. Big surprise there. But congratulations, winner on Sunday, Chase Elliott. I think you guys know I'm a Chase Elliott fan, but I mean, I don't think NASCAR gifted him that win. If they would have gifted him a win, they would have gifted him something like the Daytona 500 after winning the championship. I mean, come on, guys. I'm just saying that's a much bigger race to win, or the Bristol Dirt Race or something like that. I mean, COTA. I mean, what the hell does COTA really do for him? Okay, locks him in the playoffs. Who cares? He's probably going to win a race this year anyhow. So we'll see. So the other thing we'll do is we'll recap the news. I don't want to make this a super, super long episode. It's already kind of long anyhow. But so Eddie DeHaan, which is Chase Elliott's spotter, has been suspended indefinitely by NASCAR and by Hendrick Motorsports. DeHaan was arrested on May 12th for an assault on a pregnant woman. Apparently, this stems from a August 2020 incident where he was renting jet skis. I don't know where. I don't know if it was at Lake Norman or where the hell they were. But he was renting a jet ski, and there was some kind of an altercation with an employee who was pregnant at the time. He got into an argument. Apparently, there was some shoving. There were some words exchanged, and he put his hands on her. So listen, those were the facts that were obtained by Fox Sports, and I know Bob Pockers had that as to what exactly happened. But apparently, like I said, Eddie DeHaan has been suspended indefinitely by NASCAR and by Hendrick Motorsports, as he should, pending a legal investigation that alleges the things that this alleges. So again, innocent until proven guilty, but you just you can't have things like this going on and expect to still have a job in the sport. So hopefully he'll get his day in court. He'll get to explain the situation, what happened, and they'll move on from that. But it sounds like Trey Bull, who is Chase Elliott's cousin, is going to be Chase's spotter this weekend at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Trey has worked with Chase in the past as far as spotting and things like that at road courses and things like that. So he has a little experience with Chase, and hopefully that'll help him out as they move forward here past this situation. So a very serious thing to start off with, but we have some happier things to talk about as well. So the rumor was started about a week ago that Brad Keselowski has been offered an opportunity to join Roush Fenway Racing and be a partial owner of the program. Now, apparently, up until today, we didn't really have a lot of confirmation out of this. We heard this. We had a couple other people say the same thing. And then Fox's Bob Pockrass kind of confirmed that this was going to happen. And then Roger Penske was asked point blank today by Jeff Gluck, who's going to drive the 2 car next year? And Roger Penske responds, well, we have a contract with Brad Keselowski that runs through the season. When that is over, we will make a decision then. So he's signifying that Brad's contract is going to run out at the end of the season. And then when that contract is over, that's when the decision will be made on who replaces him. The rumor mill has guys like Ty Dillon taking over the seat, guys like Tyler Reddick. There's all kinds of names being thrown out there. I seem to think that the logical move, if I'm looking at what Roger Penske looks at, would be to take. I don't know how deep the deal is with the Wood brothers, and I'm gonna put a pause in there and say, I don't know how deep the deal is that Cindric has to be the one in the 21 for the sponsors, or can they remove Cindric from the 21 and put him in the 2 and leave Matt DiBenedetto in the 21 with the sponsors they currently have on the car right now? I don't know how that's all going to work out. What I think makes the most sense is that Penske somehow figures out to put Cindric in the 2, or leave Cindric in the 21 and bring Matt D over to the 2, whatever. But he's got the drivers he needs right there in that building. I don't think he needs to go try to get Ty Dillon, Tyler Reddick, or one of these other guys. He needs to leave DiBenedetto in a car that he's paying for, whether it's the 21 or whether it's the 2. They need to leave that deal alone and just put Cindric in the 2. Be done with it. Now, as far as Brad goes, I know it's a big risk. I know there was a Brad Keselowski fan that I know that was very, very upset about Brad going to drive for Roush Fenway. And what I said to this particular individual, and I'll say to anybody else that's a Brad Keselowski fan out there right now, is that 2022 comes the next-gen car. Guess what? This isn't going to be like all the other cars where the teams are building these cars themselves. These cars, you're going to go and buy the car built direct from some of these companies. All right? So you're going to have, a Dallara or one of those major companies building this chassis. You have other companies that are building components on the car, like Roush, and there's some others in there as well. 5-Star Bodies is going to have some of this supply and stuff in this deal as well. So we know where the stuff is coming from. We know who the suppliers are. You're going to buy these cars and they're going to be put together and already built. So this isn't going to be like Roush is building cars, Penske's building cars, this, that, and the other. No, this is one car that's getting built, and everybody's going to have the same car. This is going to be one piece of package that everybody's going to have. And the only difference is going to be one's going to be a Ford body, one's going to be a Chevy body, and the other is going to be the Toyota body. That's going to be the difference. The chassis will all be the same. The way they're built, the rear valance, everything is going to be the same. I shouldn't say the rear valance. The rear diffuser is going to be the same. The flat the flat bottom on the cars are going to be the same. These cars are going to all be the same no matter what what team you're driving for with XYZ manufacturer. All the Chevy cars are going to be built the same way. All the Ford cars are going to be built the same way. All the Toyota cars are going to be built the same way. It's not going to be that different driving a Roush-built car, a Front Motorsports car, a Rick Ware racing car, or a car from, Penske. They're all going to be the same. They're all going to be the same car. So that's where I think Brad looks at this and says, listen, I can get a partial ownership of a team, which is what he wants. He wants to be a Cup owner. I can get in. I can be a partial owner. I can drive for this team. Brad Keselowski has very little, if anything, left to prove of his racing career. The guy's a Cup champion. The guy has won lots of races. Sure, he doesn't have a Daytona 500 to his name. Sure, he doesn't have he does have a Coke 600. But sure, he doesn't have like a Southern 500. He doesn't have some of these crown jewel races. But Brad Keselowski is a champion. What does Brad Keselowski have left to prove? All he has left to prove is to prove that he can win a championship as an owner driver, which is probably what he wants to do. And this is his best shot at doing it. He doesn't have to go out and create a brand new team. Doesn't have to go buy a charter. He's already going to have one. He doesn't have to do much. And Jack Roush is not going to be around forever. Jack is going to get out of this sport, I'm telling you, sooner rather than later. The family wants nothing to do with the business. He's tried giving Matt Kenseth this deal once already, and it didn't work out. They tried doing this with Mark Martin, and Mark wanted nothing to do with it. So now he is on option number 3, which is Brad Keselowski. And it ain't a bad option if you ask me. I think this works out for everybody. I think Brad's gonna be fine. I really do think that Brad's gonna build Roush back into a powerhouse organization. And I do think Brad Keselowski knows what he's doing when it comes to this stuff. So we'll see. I mean, when he had BKR, they won races over there on the Truck Series, and they're a competitive organization. So let's just hope that Brad's able to bring that same firepower to Roush, and he's able to be successful over there. But by all indications, it sounds like Brad Keselowski is going to be driving for Roush next season. We don't know exactly if it's a 6 car, whether it's a 3rd car. We don't know exactly how that's all going to pan out, but we do know that it sounds like Brad's going to be at Roush next year. Other news, obviously, another deal that was announced late last night. Sheldon Creed is going to have lift kits for less on his truck for 12 races, starting with tonight's truck race at Charlotte Motor Speedway. So big shout out to liftkitsforless.com jumping on board and sponsoring our 2020 Truck Series champion, Sheldon Creed, for 12 races as we get closer to the playoffs in the Camping World Truck Series. So big news there. Lots of stuff going on. We got scheme reveals. We have Elliott Sadler paint scheme for Matt DiBenedetto for the Southern 500. That would be the Wood Brothers throwback race. They elected not to do what everybody else did, which was do the one in May. They elected to stay the course with the one on the Southern 500. So kudos to them for that. And there's a lot of patriotic paint schemes that you're going to see on the track this weekend. So check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/crewchief, and also check out our website, thecrewchief.net. We'll get some of those patriotic paint schemes up there for you as well. So that does it for another episode of the Crew Chief's Corner podcast. I'm Bobby Bailey. Thanks for tuning in on Twitch and on YouTube, and also for listening on on the podcast, wherever you get your favorite podcast. Thank you guys for checking us out. Be sure to tell your friends. And as always, for all the latest news and information, check out our website, thecrewchief.net. And also, you can check us out on all of our social, which is going to roll right after this ending segment here. So thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. Looking forward to the races out at Charlotte. We'll get you guys all caught up next week on the big races out at Charlotte Motor Speedway. A home race for the majority of these race teams. And I hope you guys enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. Remember what the weekend is all about. It's about all those people that sacrificed their lives for our freedom. So remember that that's the real importance of Memorial Day, not the barbecues, not the celebrations, but that's the real reason. Thank you to all of our military for all your service and for all those that are currently serving as well. Have a great weekend. Enjoy. It's going to be a rainy weekend up here in northern Jersey, but hopefully you guys have some nice weather. Get to go spend some time with your family, and we'll see you on the next episode here of the Crew Chief's Corner podcast. I'm Bobby Bailey. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next time.